city of Marlborough.
Well, I have to confess to you something. I didn't expect to speak tonight. And as a matter of fact, if I knew that I would be speaking, I probably wouldn't have come.
Oh, you didn't know that part?
And I
Even
would-
after our conversation?
And I would have missed out on some great stories. Well, things take a while for me to, to sink in, given my age. But it's probably all to the good anyway, because if I had prepared something, I probably wouldn't have stopped at 10 minutes or 10 hours even. I tend to run on. And I didn't really bring anything, but I did bring something from Marlborough that I believe is compelling. What I would have brought, I believe, is a Google Earth photo of the Marlboro Common. Now, the Marlboro Common, for those of you who know Main Street, is right in front of the Congregational Church, down onto the main street, across from Dunkin' Donuts. That might stir a thought. Right next to the old fire station. And the reason that I would take an overhead is because that whole area is the story of slavery in America, believe it or not. And so I'm just going to go around and talk about the places that had to do with slavery in America. First, the fire station. In 1775, a man lived there named Henry Barnes. He was a Tory, well connected to the governor at the time, and forced eventually to be exiled to England with his family. He owned 2 slaves. One, named Prince, was an artist, and he has a painting in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. This is something we found out in the last 2 months.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh my God.
He had another slave, a woman, who had married Jump the Broom, as his wife mentions. His wife was a exceptionally good letter writer, and most of her writings that have been saved are in the Library of Congress. And she has many, many stories. Her name was Christian Barnes. And the other slave had 2 children. The first was because the child was owned by the Barnes. The first was given away because the child had light enough skin to be able to pass for a white person. So she was given away to a family that accepted. The second child, Christian goes on to say how disappointed she was that the child looked too black, so couldn't be given away. So she was now forced to decide whether to give the mother and the child away, both. Okay. So they left town, again, because they were Tories and they had to leave the country after the Revolution. We fast forward ahead about 75 years, and this is the period of slavery in America where things are getting really dicey. At the Congregational Church right there, on the occasion of a fugitive slave from Boston being returned to Georgia, the bells rang 75 times at the church. And the reason that it was 75 is that it was 1851 and it was 75 years from the Declaration of Independence. Now, if you move down right aside of the Common is Rose Funeral Home. And they have a gazebo there at Rose Funeral Home. And that was placed there after the demolition of what was called the, I believe it was the Thayer Hotel. Okay, it was a very old, very, very old hotel in Marlborough. And it had, lost its usefulness. if everybody was, you know, aware of the historic nature of the building, they probably wouldn't have been torn down, but, you know, we've seen building after building in Marlborough of historic value being torn down, so there wasn't much public will to save it. But at that hotel worked a slave woman, and this slave woman was from Harper's Ferry. And she wasn't the only slave from Harper's Ferry that lived in Marlborough. There were there were a number of them that lived. She had come with her mother. Her story, and forgive me because I'm not prepared, I can't remember her name, but she came with her mother. She followed the 13th Regiment. She was a camp follower of the 13th Regiment. The 13th Regiment, for those of you who know, was the group of men from Marlborough who had taken the John Brown Bell. But before the Bell, long before the Bell ever came to Marlborough, they had invited this slave woman and her mother to come to Marlborough. And along with them came her cousin, who was a barber in Marlborough for many years. And then later on, another man who had worked in Harper's Ferry but had escaped prior to the John Brown incident, but was friends, had grown up with this woman in the hotel where they worked at Harper's Ferry. She invited her to come. She invited him to come with his family later on in about 1870. So, but she got there in 1862. She went right from the camp to Marlborough at the invitation of the same soldiers that took the Bell. Okay,
Was
yes.
she free? They were free at the hotel. They were free.
They were free. They were free at that time, yes, because the slavery had been outlawed in Massachusetts just after the Revolution, and so she was a free person. She worked as a cook in the hotel, and she and this other gentleman that she invited